Hello, everyone. I want to talk to you a bit about mentoring, which is an area of research focus for me. Specifically, I want to talk to you about the value of mentoring and having a strong developmental network that can be responsive to your needs. What I'd like to do is talk a bit more about this through the lens of my own experience and through the Frances Mumford case. So, in opening this, let me offer you some primary takeaways. First, I want to discuss the Frances Mumford case in the broader context of mentoring. I'd like you to think more about enhancing your knowledge about your existing developmental network and offer strategies to build a network that's responsive to your career needs. Let me say this as a starting point. Studies show that about 70% of your learning that you'll experience comes from on-the-job challenges. Another 20% you experience through your own social network or mentoring specifically. And so what that means is that while you're going to learn a lot from jobs, you can learn a lot from other people. And you certainly wouldn't want to miss 20% of your learning opportunities by not harnessing the power of mentoring. Now, let me offer you a handful of empirical outcomes associated with mentorship. So people with mentors, when compared to people without mentors, make more money, they get promoted more frequently, they experience greater personal learning, they're more satisfied in their jobs, and they're more likely to experience extraordinary career achievement. So if you just look at these outcomes, clearly you could think to yourself, wow, I would benefit from mentoring. What I'd like to help you understand is that ultimately, consistent with Frances Mumford's experience, people generally don't rely just on a single mentor, but rather on a network. And the reason for that is that in the past few decades, people were more apt to stick around with companies over the longer term wherein mentoring relationships could develop. Nowadays, people transition between jobs and departments, geographic locations with greater frequency. So the likelihood of having a mentor and a protege be together for a long time is not as likely. Excuse me. So you have to be thinking about the entire network that you develop. Now, Frances Mumford didn't rely solely on any kind of mentor. She had a network of peers, of sponsors, and she was very proactive in building that network. So we'll talk about that more. What I want to do is talk to you briefly about my own experience. And I put on here, it takes a village. I was accepted into the Boston University doctoral business program in 2001. Now, I wrote here the learning curve was exceptionally steep. So some of my learning needs were that I really needed to understand how to teach and also how to publish. So included in the publishing piece was I needed to have a heightened understanding of doctoral statistics, how to design research, the publication process, and the management literature topics, because that's what I was going to be teaching. It turns out in the first week of my program, I had about 600 pages to read in one class. So this book right here on postmodern theology, my book was on postmodernism, but I included this kind of book to highlight the word postmodern, meaning I had no idea what this term meant. And I was sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to look up so many terms in this book because I come from corporate America. I have no idea what this means. And for about the first few months, I was completely in the weeds and all alone. And yes, I was climbing some learning curve through my own means, but I realized I am not going to be able to go about this alone, or I may fail out and have to go back to corporate America, and that was not necessarily what I wanted to do, or would it be that easy? So I said, uh-oh. So what I ended up doing is approaching a woman named Kathy Cram, who is the world's leading scholar on mentoring. You can see she has outstanding credentials here. What I said was, Kathy, I'm interested in adult development, in mentoring and career development, and I know you specialize in those areas. I'd like to do an independent study with you, and I will work hard to produce research that we can publish together. I'll do all of the work, but I do need you to meet with me and teach me more about these literatures and think strategically about how to frame research design and strategically think about publishing. In the beginning stages, and she said, wow, nobody's actually come to me with this kind of invitation, and I'm happy to take you up on it. So she and I started working together, and in the context of an independent study, and I ended up learning a lot. I wrote a paper with her, or actually for her, in our class that subsequently was publishable, and we published it together. And because of that, she felt more comfortable introducing me to other top scholars. So on your right-hand side are Tim Hull and Monica Higgins. Tim's at Boston University. Monica is at Harvard. And she said, hey, you know what? Dawn's actually pretty good as a scholar. Why don't you work with her on some of your projects? They both accepted, and I started working with them as well. And over time, Kathy and I developed a very strong relationship where we became friends, even though we had a pretty significant age gap between us. And she ended up sponsoring me for a Human Resources Policy Institute research assistantship, which gave me additional money. And she nominated me twice for doctoral research awards, which I won twice. And it turns out these were Tim and Monica, and I published multiple things as well. So the time that I ended at Boston University, I'd actually published more than most of my peers. And that was really because of the mentoring efforts that I developed, or mentorships and developmental support that I secured while at Boston University. Now, here under this balloon is a group of 6 peers from various places with whom I became close, and we spent 5 years together hanging out, and peers were essentially strong sources of learning support for me as well. And so we were friends. They affirmed me and helped me understand, think through problems I was experiencing in class. We talked about career strategies on the job market. We shared our papers together and gave each other feedback, and then thought about course strategies for teaching. So I had, and these were not the sole people in my network. I had 6 peers, at least. These were the 6 that came to my mind, and 3 senior, we'll say, sponsors. Now, Kathy was my full-blown mentor. So if you want to think about mentoring in its fleshiest state, in the left-hand column is a set of career support functions, and on the right are psychosocial support functions. And a mentor could do all of these things for you. So they can coach you, provide challenging assignments, give you visibility to other people who are senior, sponsor you for positions, and be great role models for you. And on the right-hand side is more of that personal support, friendship, and the ability to act vulnerably with that person and provide, be a confidant to that person. Kathy was that person for me, and she was my mentor for about a decade. And even now, I would consider her a mentor because I could go to her at any point in time, and even though she's retired, and I could still ask her for various points of advice. Now, what did I do as a protege? It wasn't just about me being receptive to them. I was very proactive. So what are some of the things I did? I asked for help in the first place with Kathy. I made it mutual, so I did the lion's share of all the writing we did together, and about a third of my publications have her on them, including most of my A-level peer-reviewed articles. I worked very hard, and one of the things that I did was I nominated her for a global award that she won. So it was a big win for her in her career, and I gave the speech in front of about 400 people. And it was a beautiful moment between us, and I thought, I really care about this person. I want to help her. So I did. I thanked her at multiple points in time. I followed up with her to share with her how her experiences were helping me. I was open and vulnerable, so there were times I said to her, boy, I'm scared to do this or that. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do this. And she would share with me her own vulnerabilities. And I had the right attitude about help seeking. I was not shy when I didn't know the answer to reach out to her and other people. But I also was well prepared for those meetings, and I had potential solutions that I bounced off of them to prove that I was competent. I would say being a great protege means that you have to be competent. If you're not competent, nobody wants to hitch their wagon to you. People take on proteges because they see an interest in learning. They're ready to help other people, and because they that person will do well under their guidance. Let me stop here. I'm going to start another video, and we will go from there.